Okay, all right.
Buying
We're gonna try
physical
this
media
again.
is cheaper than Netflix.
What? All right, here we go.
We'll get this.
I'll get another one.
How many of you guys, don't even just say yes or no, how many of you guys have heard of the red pill or manosphere? Heard of it? Okay, great.
Okay.
Are we good?
Okay. Okay, put up green if you're like, okay, cool, I've heard of it and it's good, I like it. Put up red if you're like, it's not my thing, kind of a negative connotation. Hold them up high. Girls, don't make me treat you like you're in elementary school. Hold up your signs.
I've heard of it.
Perfect. Great. Okay, so it's sort of mixed. But the reason that I have Rolo here, because actually Rolo's people don't remember this. Over 2 years ago, you taught me what red pill was, and it made sense to me because I worked in nightlife my whole life, intersexual dynamics. I got it. I caught on quick, but I got to give credit.
February of 2022, if
There it was.
memory serves.
Wow. 2.5 years ago.
Yes.
Yes.
Incredible. And I was like, what's going? And then boom. So I will always give him credit where credit is due. 100%. And then Michael, red pill adjacent. I've learned this thing. I don't know where Kean is in this. I know you do relationships. I want to hear you have to say. But here's what we got going on. And Rolo, for those of you guys don't know, he's been described as, I don't even know if you call yourself this, the godfather of the red pill.
I inherited the name.
Inherited the name. The rational male, Access Vegas. We'll talk about that. But here's what I want to kind of go to. It's a long question, so bear with me, and then you're going to have all the time in the world. So there's a lot of content out there that's saying that the red pill is dying. But I've heard you say things like, dude, with iterations of the red pill,
just goes
especially
through cycles, yes.
Goes through cycles. So it was pretty interesting when I
Actually, I have a quick question for you, Sithis. Do you accept like all of the red pill's axioms plus like the black pill axioms as well? Or is it's just a completely different path for you?
No, I disagree with like a lot of the red pill guys on a lot of things. But I guess where I would agree with them on is just the honestly, I don't really know. Let me think about it. I guess the one thing is that they do push for is for like self-improvement and being the best man that you could be and looks maxing and things like that. So I do agree with them on that. My thing is just like, I don't think that doing that, all these things that these red pills people are always saying is automatically going to make you get women. It's not like the red pill isn't going to get you to get women. And that's generally the main reason why people really get into this whole red pill, stuff, because they think that, oh, with this new information that I have and doing all of this self-improvement, it's going to get me a girlfriend and, I'm going to be above the rest of everybody. But from my experience, most of these red pill guys are just as single as any other, blue pill or black pill guy, generally.
Do you think it at least, like the self-improvement part, do you think that at least raises your chances of getting a girlfriend?
If you have a good template for a body, so for instance, there are some people who have good genetics, like if you're really tall and you have a good facial structure, but you just don't take care of yourself, you're a bit overweight, you don't take care of yourself, like your hair and the way that you dress. If you improve yourself and do all that looks maxing stuff, that will bring you a long way. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I do.
But there are just some people that and I would say a large portion of people, a very large portion of people that looks maxing is good for self-improvement, but it's not going to get you a girlfriend. It's not like most of the time. You know what I mean? It just isn't, if you are there are just certain things about yourself that you can't really change that much. If you have a really fucked up face, if you're really, really short, if you have an extremely awkward or weird personality that you just can't get over, mainly it's just the face. Like if you have a really fucked up face, your face is not very good looking, you're not very tall, you're not very fit, then it's really
over.
not gonna, it's pretty much over for you. You're pretty much done. You're going to have to basically settle for someone that is basically below you or just not have anybody at all. That's
Good to
basically how I
know.
look at it.
Interesting.
I saw people like in the red pill, like Allie. Do we have a clip of Allie? She said that the red pill is imploding. What's Allie's? Allie Drummond. So yeah, she said red pill is imploding. We don't need to play the clip. Then we have Destiny, who's been on the show a million times. You've done debates with Destiny.
What does that even mean?
He's
The
done a
red
whole
pill's
thing about
imploding.
How no woman wants a red pill.
I could
I'll
I give an explanation.
But then
What do you think?
I think the reason why, why it's imploding is because when the red pill stuff came out with Andrew Tate, and I mean like the recent red pill stuff, because red pill has been around for a while, but the thing is like Andrew Tate and his whole crew they kind of thrusted it into the mainstream. And then it was kind of like a new thing that everybody was like looking into. There are certain truths that the red pill does give, right? That some men, took advantage of, such as the self-improvement and helping yourselves and going your own way and worrying about your financial stuff, like all that good stuff, right? But then after a while, there was like a lot of people who called themselves red pills that were going around saying some pretty wild shit and was making everybody look ridiculous. So like, for example, you have people like Myron and Fresh going around saying like, never date a single mother. If you date a single mother, you're done for. Or, if you're a man, you need to live with other men and not have a girlfriend. And, if you have a wife, you should be allowed to cheat on your wife. And she should be staying with you. But if she cheats on you, you should just leave. I think when they say ridiculous things like that, most people just simply don't agree with, right? Once people started hearing people like that saying crazy stuff like that, I think people started to sort of move away from the red pill stuff. Like it started to die down a little bit. And also I think that people just started to realize that it wasn't really improving their lives in the way in which it was promising. A lot of people thought like, oh, I'm getting all this new information about women and this and this and this and that. But again, it's knowing about women and their intersectional dynamics. If you're not a very good looking person, it's not going to get you a girlfriend. It's like those people that study how to do football, right? For years and years and years, but they're a skinny guy like me. Going into a school and learning about football is not going to make you a football player, right? It's what makes you a football player is having the strength and the things that are needed in order to play football. You know what I mean?
I think I see your perspective on this. You need prerequisites, essentially.
Yeah, there are certain prerequisites that get you into there. And, that I think after a while, people just started to realize, it's interesting, the red pill stuff, but it's not getting me to where I actually want to be, which is getting a girlfriend.
Interesting.
Those are some people kind of talking trash about the red pill, if you will. But, you've also talked about grifters coming and going. But I'm going to go rapid fire here. Andrew Tate. I don't even know if he considers himself
He's
red
been
pill.
kind of distancing himself from it recently.
He's been distancing it, but is there anybody?
But when they say red pill, they do mean Andrew Tate. They don't like the people who are saying. So the content is created when you started that forum like in 03, when you're on that forum in 03. That's what red pill is. But what it's been bastardized to is like, oh, those red pill guys. But they're talking about things like he gets blamed for things that Pearl Davis says.
I clean up everybody's mess.
That's what the question. Perfect. So
I just
Andrew
love
Tate, the
that he
latest
just
thing with
said
Tate-
pretty much exactly what I said, which is that there was a lot of red pill guys that came out, like he said, that were saying some pretty interesting stuff, saying some pretty smart stuff. And then out of nowhere, you have all of these clone red pill guys that just started saying all these wild ass shit. And then it basically kind of ruined the reputation for all of the normal red pill guys. Yeah.
Yeah, well, that makes sense. I'm going to go on mute real quick because there's lots of noises here.
Believe me, we've interviewed him twice. I have my perspective. Shoot it down if you want. I think, feel free. I think it's all sort of a sham of what's going on over there. Allegedly. He's obviously been canceled. He's been jailed. PBD and I flew out to interview him in Madrid, in Romania. We've done this. Now he's dealing with new charges. He's sued by these British women for graping. That's how I feel about that. There you go. Fresh and Fit. You guys were just on Fresh and Fit last night. Leader in the space. demonetized from YouTube. We saw what happened with them. That was how many months ago?
I don't know.
At least 8 months ago.
Yeah.
8 months ago.
right?
Okay. Fresh and Fit demonetized. Pearl, she's been on the show a bunch of times. Pearl Davis,
Yeah.
also demonetized. Okay, these are people that I would say are definitely red pills. For some reason, whatever has never.
Pearl
anything.
Davis
You
is
guys are
cancer.
Yeah,
on
so
Access
I mean,
Vegas.
they
Oh
don't
my-
really.
Yeah, I don't like this idea that they're calling like certain people red pill. Like, it's just funny that like the people are involved with red pill, but like they aren't red pill. You know, they're talking about it, they're discussing it, but they aren't that thing.
Well, the reason why is because they call themselves Red Pill. You know what I mean? These people say that they are representatives of the Red Pill community, you know, and they are the most popular and outspoken ones. So, you know, when you basically tie yourself to an ideology, and then you say some wild shit, and then you become popular off of that ideology, you sort of kind of represent that ideology without really even if you don't really mean to, right? So for instance, like, and we're both ANCAPs, right? Let's say me and you blew up, right? We may not be the best, most knowledgeable people on anarcho-capitalism, right? But because let's say we blew up, people are going to look at us as being the de facto representatives of anarcho-capitalism because we are the most outspoken, most popular people out there. So
We are the most influential.
and most influential. Yeah, I'm not saying we all actually are, but assuming in a magical world we were, right? We were actually influential. So that's basically what's kind of going on with Pearl Davis and Fresh and Fit and all of these other Red Pill guys, who weren't originally the faces of Red Pill, but became the faces of Red Pill because of how they blew up and because they call themselves Red Pill and they say they represent the ideology. And, you know, it makes other people look bad who would otherwise call themselves Red Pill, but don't actually believe those things. Well, at least the crazy stuff that those people say, especially Pearl Davis. Jeez Louise.
Yeah, Pearl's interesting for sure.
Yeah.
Whatever doesn't
there's-
push the envelope like that.
Alejandro, do you have any of these?
They're not really red pill when you hear most of Brian's
Okay.
opinions.
Yeah.
No.
There's
Super
Fresh
red
and
pill.
Fit. We know what happened with them. Pearl, I believe we have that. But I'm going to go deeper and then I'm going to turn it over to you, Roland. Because these are sort of like the bigger names. Tate, Fresh and Fit, Pearl, you guys. Then you have sort of like other players in this that I don't know as well, or that maybe people don't know as well, but there's a lot of beef going on. Like this guy, there's competing manosphere conferences.
Sure.
Right? Anthony the Dream Johnson, I've never met him, never spoken to him. He
That
calls
conference
himself-
is now defunct. But
Okay, so
but
exactly. So
continue,
they
yeah.
have now been literally canceled.
Yeah.
But they have beef with Donovan Sharp, and he hosts the CME, which is the conference
of masculine
for masculine excellence. So
I know,
they're
I
going
can't-
back and forth. Anthony's calling him Donovan Sharp. He's calling him this and that. Like, I don't get in this, but someone we have on the show, MLD, Modern Life Dating, I literally don't know what he's doing these days. I haven't seen him do much content. I think he's out there in Tokyo being a passport bro. Best of luck to him. And I'll circle this back because I said the red pill dying, whatever. The reason I even started knowing about this right before you was Kevin Samuels, who unfortunately literally died. So here we go. This is the question. What is going on with the red pill? Is it dying? Is it going to make a comeback? Your thoughts.
Okay. So in March of 2021, I was on Fresh and Fit, and I think it was like the second or the third time I've been on the show. And the topic that we were talking about was, is the red pill going to go mainstream? I've used this clip of like half a dozen different times on my show and just sort of lead up to the topic at hand here. During that conversation, they asked me, is the red pill going mainstream? And my answer to both of them was, I hope not. Because the red pill, to remain legitimate, to remain useful, to be effective, has to be under the radar. And now we're seeing exactly why I was saying this back in 2021. And as part of that conversation, I said the reason for this is because if people will come into the red pill and they will use the red pill.
I actually think I want to disagree with Rollo on this point, because I understand what he's saying at first glance. It makes sense that it's most effective because people can use it when nobody else understands how it's being used. So it's like, if this knowledge gets out, then what's going to happen is people are going to start kind of like as we discuss, like the red pill's imploding. People are going to start defaming it. They're going to start calling, like misogyny and like toxic masculinity on these things. And I understand what he's saying, but I'm coming at this from a capitalistic perspective. And it seems to be the case to me that anytime we ever have knowledge that is true or knowledge that is good for society get out to the public, and it becomes what's the word I'm looking for? It kind of like permeates throughout society, and it decentralizes the knowledge itself. Society tends to get better when it recognizes truths. So while I understand what he's saying, that yeah, it's a bad thing because now the right people, the good people who were using it before, can't use it without like being called out. What I think it's going to do is it's going to permeate throughout the entire world, and it will kind of like decentralize, and smart people, intelligent people will take the knowledge and start building on it and creating strong argumentation for it. And over time, we're going to have a strong foundation for it. It's going to be like capitalism, where it's like tons of people hate capitalism, but like capitalism is true. And it's going to be the same thing with the red pill. It's like tons of people are going to hate red pill, but it is true. And it's like the right people will have access to it. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I think what's going on with the red pill, like it had its blow up. Everybody who didn't really know anything about it watched it. They, heard the ideology, and then there's people who stuck with it, and then there's some people who moved on. And as with every new ideology, or relatively new ideology, people pick it up, they listen to it, they hear it out, and it because of that, it blows up. But then after a while, it sort of dies down. But I don't think the red pill is going to disappear at all. I just think that it's hit its peak, and now it's just leveling off. You know what I'm saying? Now maybe it could happen again. Maybe somebody, another Andrew Tate type character, might come around and bring it back up. I mean, we'll see. But and it's also the same thing as going on with the black pill movement a little bit too. Whereas the black pill is now, I think it was because of one YouTuber, that his whole channel, he like deleted his whole channel or something like that happened with his whole channel. And because of that, a lot of people started to check out his videos or re-uploads of his videos. And so the black pill kind of blew up a little bit, but as everybody starts to get to know about it, as everybody starts to realize, understand the ideology, because ideologies like this, like the red pill, it's not an evolving ideology. You know what I'm saying? You learn the basics of it, you understand what it is, and then, that's it. There's nothing new that these people could really add to the red pill, right?
Yeah, now it's just courses, basically.
Yeah, so like there's nothing, like I kind of already understand how the red pill works. Most people kind of understand how the red pill works. There's no real interesting or new developments that are coming out from the red pill. And that's also true for the black pill too. It's just basically like, okay, well, the world basically the black pill is basically like, okay, well, we live in a very shallow world. The dating market is going downhill, and and it's pretty much based on looks, and it's mainly because of the internet. And that's pretty much, there's not much really else to add onto that, after you've initially understood the ideology. So that's why, like, I think like anarcho-capitalist or like libertarian or political ideologies, they tend to last much longer, because there's always a new relevant issue that sort of keeps it, like, what do you call it? Relevant, if that makes sense, right? Whereas with a lot of these like dating ideologies, there's not much to keep it. Like how many like dating podcasts do you need to watch before you already understand how every single dating podcast is going to be? Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, true.
Exactly. Like you could
Shout
watch
out to the Whatever podcast.
No, I mean, listen, I'm not saying they're bad, but in the end of the day, they're like the Jerry Springer show. Once you watch a few episodes of the Jerry Springer show, you already know what's coming, right? Because there's no new interesting developments that are coming in with a show like that and with an ideology like that. Whereas like political ideologies, I could watch political podcasts and things like that probably for the rest of my life, because there's always something new. There's always some new interesting development that is going on in those ideologies. And I think that's pretty much the main reason why the red pill is just going to go down. It's not going to go away, but it's not going to be as big as it was once Andrew Tate around. I mean, maybe there could be another big wave. Who knows? I mean, I could be wrong. But to me, it seems like it's just leveling it off. And the people who like Rolo, this guy, and other red pill friends of his, they're not going to stop making the videos. They're going to keep doing it, and they're still going to, they're not going to get as much views as they're not going to get as much views as they used to, but they're still going to be around. They're not going to go anywhere, I don't think. So.
Yeah, that's true.
As sort of a loose brand, or it's not a registered trademark. Anybody can use the word red pill. And so I was trying to take them back as far as, like, say, 2015, 2016 election cycle at that time. So Candace Owens, for example, that you were mentioning just before, her Twitter handle in 2015 was Red Pill Black.
Right.
She was using the term red pill as far back as 2015.
And I'm going to let you go, but there's red pill has been used in the political spectrum, but also in the dating spectrum.
Right, yes. And that's where they picked it up.
But she kind of does crossover with both.
Well, that's because the thing is, when the kids are using red pill, like when that's the topic du jour, the term du jour, and you have a political system that wants to reach out to, like, certain voters. Well, what are the kids saying? If it was MRAs, if it was MGTOW, they would have used MGTOW at that time. If it was red pill, they'll use red pill. So red pill becomes anything.
MGTOW stands for what exactly?
Men going their own way.
And that's like a black pill. Like, I'm not even dealing with ladies anymore.
The point is like the point is if it's a hashtag and it's a trending hashtag at that time, they will use that moniker for whatever it is that they want to. So if you're alt-right, if you're pro-Trump, if you're MAGA, if you're right now, if you're like an ortho bro or a Christ pill bro, whatever, everything's red pill. Everything literally
Christ
is red pill.
pill.
So any person that comes around and wants to take that term and that brand and use it for whatever it is that they're doing, because what they'll do is they'll bastardize the term into meaning like, I'm right, you're wrong. It's a truth that is discovered, right? If you ever watch The Matrix, if you watch, it's a blue pill and the red pill, right? The blue pill is what you used to think was true, and the red pill is what's really true. And so what happens is that if you have some sort of pet ideology and you really are, convicted about your beliefs, that's red pill. So I was trying to explain this to them back then. I said, well, what's going to happen is people will come into this space, especially in the intersexual dynamic space, because when I talk red pill, the first instance of me using the term red pill was on the SOSWAP forums in 2004. Who
used the term red pill other than the Matrix?
Well, no, the Matrix really is where it's from. But right after that, we're talking about the forum years when it was like Mystery Method, and it was the alt fast seduction forums.
What year did the game come out with Neil Strauss?
It was published in 2005. So all of the events that happened in that book took place in 2003, 2004, 2002, somewhere in there.
And by the way, obviously, you read that book. You read that book.
I know Neil.
Yeah,
you know Neil.
They just had mystery on.
I just had mystery on my show.
I mean, a must read for young men who want to. What are these things called again? Women. Okay,
yes.
my bad.
Yeah, we actually call you women too. No, it's like, so what happens is you have to track through the history here, because if you go back to the seduction days, if you go to the old pickup artists from the mid 2000s, like Mystery, Neil Strauss. I mean, VH1 had the pickup artist show and everything, and that evolved into what we now call the red pill.
But wasn't that so? Let me hone in on this, because I asked you if the red pill was dying, and you said there's been.
No, I don't think it's not dying.
Okay, not dying, but you said there's been different waves.
There's cycles. Okay, so I've been doing this probably longer than anybody else has. Okay,
I mean,
why I said I beyond, like, say, Mystery and some of these other guys, but as far as like the evolution of the manosphere, I've watched this happen for 23 years now. And so I was trying to relate to them was the last election cycle during 2019 to 2020. Everybody who was in the red pill space wanted to pivot into politics and into social issues, which is exactly what we're saying right now. So everybody wants to turn the red pill into their social ideology, their pet name for whatever their pet social ideology happens to be. So anything, literally anything right now can be called red pill, because it's just there to appeal to a certain audience.
Okay, but I want to understand one thing, and then I want to get Michael, because Michael describes himself as red pill adjacent. I don't know where Kian is on this, but I know that you help men improve, so I want to get your opinion. The mainstream thing. You could argue that, all right, it went mainstream when Neil Strauss wrote the book. All right, it was a very popular book. Kind of mainstream when you're on VH1 or MTV. It's pretty pop culture. Kevin Samuels kind of made it cool and mainstream. And then, obviously, you've been doing this forever, but then Tate took it to a whole nother level, and even Fresh and Fit.
And they take it,
I guess my argument is it's been mainstream for different iterations, different cycles, but now is it officially mainstream?
Well, you also have to know that it's evolving with the technology at that time. So back in the pickup artist days, there was no Twitter, there was no social media. It was those were the forum years where everybody would get together on a forum and compare notes on that forum. Then it was the blog years, and that's when I started the Rational Male blog. From there, we go on into the YouTube years and then the social media, Instagram, Twitter, all that good stuff.
And that's obviously how Tate blew
it's become exponentially, more and more people are aware of it. What I'm saying is that the original, intention of it was strictly, when I talk about the red pill, it's strictly intersexual dynamics. It's female nature, male nature, evolutionary psychology, sociology, anthropology. You've asked me in this show a 1,000 different times, give us the elevator pitch for the red pill. There is no elevator pitch. It is a college major is what it is, okay? It is not a bumper sticker. It's not like, I'm red pill, here it is.
Unfortunately, kids are dropping out of college and we're seeing that they're getting indoctrinated and not educated.
Exactly.
So as much as it's like, nope, you got to take the whole class, the whole course, someone's like, can I just get the Cliff Notes, bro? But
Exactly.
I get it.
The Cliff Notes are much easier to monetize and commercialize than it is to actually pay attention to what the hell is going on.
And then they add a prescription to them as well, right? And that's the biggest difference between you guys and so many other people I've seen in the space. A lot of the people who've got cancelled is you guys don't give prescriptions.
No.
When people start giving prescriptions and they start injecting their own beliefs into those prescriptions, that's where things really go amiss.
That's the difference between best practices and what we're like. The red pill is what I've called a praxeology. It is not an ideology. It is not a philosophy.
Praxeology.
To be clear, listen, Rollo's great. But it's not praxeology. That's just not what it is. It is empiricism. It's data. It's empirical data. It's not deductive data. That's not what it is. Praxeology is a axiom starting point of humans act, and it's a logically derived system. The data of red pill is empirically derived. It's inductively derived. So it's not praxeology. I understand what he's saying here, but praxeology is a completely different thing. This is just like empiricism.
Yeah, sorry about my phone. I agree with you. I think that in the end of the day, what these guys are doing is they're looking at studies and stuff like that. And they're basically trying to give the best answers on how to find a mate. And that's basically like a lot of what they talk about. Like what they do is they just delve into this, like the studies like about men and women dynamics and relationship stuff. And, they just try to, like you said, that's all empiricism. That isn't just necessarily a praxeology.
Yeah. It's just normal data. It's well backed data, but it's data nonetheless. So
it is not a belief set. It is not a religion. It is not a cult. It is not whatever your system of belief happens to be. And the reason why people want to turn it into that is because that's the only way they can understand it. They have to say your philosophy, your beliefs, or you preach. It's never teach. You preach.
Right.
This, right.
Like Abba and preach?
Well, no. I mean, as far as like sermonizing.
Let me get Sartain's
That's the only way they can understand it.
Sartain, Michael Sartain. What I think I like about you guys is you don't always agree on everything.
Yeah.
It's like if you ever see me and PBD, we're constantly baby, like, it's kind of hard to argue with the CEO, the boss. But I get my licks in. But he's the man. I get it. But you guys don't always agree. And you don't even describe yourself as red pill. You call yourself red pill adjacent.
I am red pill in that it is a
But
derivative.
is the red pill dying?
No. So here's the way it works. It's this phenomenon for anyone who's watching this. Anytime you hear someone say the red pill is dying, notice it is a person who did not like the red pill in the first place. So even though Andrew Tate will say I'm not red pill, if Andrew Tate says something you don't like, then you put Andrew Tate in the same category with everyone else you don't like. Does that make sense? And now something that some random content creator said that you found to be misogynistic, now you pin that on every single other person. It's really, it's almost a form of like, it's almost a form of like YouTube bigotry, if you want to call it that. So anything you don't like causes school shootings. That's the way it works. Yeah. Anything you disagree with. So for instance, because someone disagrees with something that Rolo said, or Rolo said something mean to them on Twitter or X or something like that, therefore all red pill is this. But just notice one more time, whenever you hear somebody say red pill is dead, it's never, when you hear someone in the red pill say it's dead, then maybe you could listen. But whenever it's someone who never wanted it to be fruitful in the first place saying it, then you probably should take that with a grain of salt.
So do you mean Destiny specifically?
I mean, Destiny's one of them, but here's another one.
But also, Ali Drummond was, I met her at the CME.
These are people who don't have the depth of experience to know the cycles and how things go through.
So,
come November 6th, when everybody suddenly is all done with social issues and politics and everything else, trust me.
I think that when people say red pill is dying, they're not literally saying that no one is watching it anymore. No one is making videos on it anymore. I think what people are saying is, like, it's kind of like when you like play a video game, right? And then you see people making YouTube videos when they say 90% of the people who played this video game are now gone, right? But it's just like, wait a minute. Now it's a dead game. Well, it's just like, no, it's not a dead game, because when you first buy a game, there's like a huge amount of popularity, right? And then everybody tries it out, everybody checks it out. And then after a while, most of the people who play it, they move on to other things and blah, 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 blah. And then you have that core audience that sticks around and supports it and loves it and keeps it going. And I think that's what people mean when they say it's basically dying, is that the hype is now basically gone down. And everyone's kind of gone their own. Yeah, the boom
is over.
Yeah, the boom is over, and now it's kind of dying down. Now, it's not dying in the sense that it's like no one's around anymore. Obviously, you still have these guys over here, these gentlemen. But fundamentally, it's no longer. It definitely isn't as big as it was like last year. Like I last year, holy fucking cow! Everybody was talking about the red pill, red pill, red pill, red pill. YouTubers that. Like I would never even expect to talk about that. Like, we're making videos about men and male issues and red pill videos and red pill.
I mean, it is kind of red tube. It is kind of red tube.
But you know what I mean. But
no, that's absolutely true.
Yeah, it's just not as big as it used to be. It's not dead, but it's just not as big as it used to be.
I think definitely not. I think the red pill was such a seismic shock to like the world that they weren't expecting it. It was almost like being hit with like freezing cold water. Like, people weren't expecting it. And because it's such a radical view on the world compared to like what people, what like feminized culture has been used to for, the past the past decades. So I think it was such a culture shock to the entire world that it just like, it had such a gigantic boom of viewership because so many people were confused. There, like, some people were crazed, some people were angry, other people were curious and interested. So there was just so much like hype to it because it was something that was so radical to like the world. And what I think has happened is that like that crazy like cold that cold water is essentially like becoming warmer, or it's like it's not as shocking now. What I think it's happened is it's like integrating into the society, and we're like, oh, okay. So like what's happening is it's become like a political issue, right? Where it's like it's integrated into the culture, and now people have chosen sides. And since it's not popular to talk about, they're just not talking about it right now. But like they still have their beliefs on those issues. They're just not talking about it because it's not the most pressing thing, right? The most pressing thing was like the presidential election and politics and all that stuff. So I think it has like integrated, especially into the younger generation, the people who are online, but it's just being put to the side right now because of the politics.
Yeah, like I said, red pill isn't I don't think it should be someone's main ideology. I think it should be just something that's a side thing, right? Something that you sort of look into, but you don't make it your whole life, right? Whereas like politics, like you said earlier, people got big into the red pill, and then they moved back to politics because politics is always relevant. Politics, there's always new developments. Politics, there's always something interesting to keep it going, right? Now, sometimes it does get stale once in a while. And then that's when you see like red pill, black pill, this pill, that pill, pop up and sort of take the reins for a little bit. But again, like with these ideologies, they're not developing ideologies. They're ideologies that you sort of learn about, and then you learn the basics of it, and you may go a little deeper, and then that's really it. There's nothing more to learn about it other than the basic stuff, right? So, and also I gotta say, Andrew Tate was basically the guy that made I think, me personally, I look at him as being the one that just basically blew up the red pill movement. It was around before he was, but he was the one that really blew it up, because when you saw those TikToks of him going, yeah, I own my wife. If I have a wife, she's my property. Or saying, oh, if I never let a woman drive. I hate Star Wars. Star Wars is for bitches. You're vaping. You're a pussy if you vape. Stuff like that. Like saying the funny, wild shit that he was saying, right? And people were like, what the hell? What the hell is up with this guy? And it was a very shocking thing. So because it was a shocking thing to hear him say all that funny, crazy stuff, people, like, all eyes were on it for a little bit. But then after a while, once he got arrested, I think it was right when he got arrested mainly, and he was basically taken out of the picture for a while. That's when I think things started to like kind of die down. You know what I mean? I was like, all right. Mm-hmm. And then when he came back, it was already died down to the point where he couldn't continue that momentum anymore because he was gone for so long. You know what I mean? So even though he's still around, he doesn't have that momentum that he used to, And now he's resorting. Momentum. Yeah, he's resorting to selling Bitcoins in order to basically try to make money, for all these cases that are pending against him. So, yeah, man, these guys got to thank Andrew Tate, man, because that's the guy who basically put them where they're at.
Basically. You know what's funny? I don't even consider Andrew Tate as part of the red pill, honestly. I think he saw the ideology, and it kind of, a lot of the things that he saw, a lot of the axioms of the red pill, he kind of saw how those resembled his own values. And so he kind of leaned into the character, and he kind of created a character of like this hyper masculine, like hyper red pill character that even he doesn't actually believe in. I think he leaned into the character, and he used that because he's a great entertainer. He's super entertaining. He says wild, funny shit, and he's great at like growing audiences and keeping people entertained. And I think that using red pill helps him a lot in doing that. But I don't think he's actually red pill. I think he's one of those, what we would call like a natural, where he's naturally attractive. He's naturally good with women. He's intelligent for sure. Like, he's a smart guy. But I don't think he really learned and resonated with the red pill, like he didn't really take the time to learn it. He's just kind of a natural, and he leaned into the character of the red pill sphere, or the manosphere. And he kind of, jumped on the train, and then he led, like the conductor, he led the train, to the world, and then he showed the whole world.
Whether he believed it or not, I mean, he definitely was the guy that got these guys out there. I mean, fundamentally, he was the main man. You know what I mean? For a while,
he was. So, he definitely was.
2025 is exactly when this stuff is going to come right back around again.
I'm going to ask you an interesting question in a second.
All right, so you guys understand the concept. Like, it's people who never wanted this to work in the first place. Here's the second thing that's happening. So big tech severely does not like this content, and so they start demonetizing and ratioing certain people. So now they're artificially taking down certain people's engagement, and then they have their talking heads state things like the red pill is dying. So just imagine if I'm at Meta and I'm like, I don't like this content, therefore we're going to ratio this certain type of content, and then we're going to have people who support our side of the political aisle say, do you see that type of content? You see how it's getting less traction? That's because it's dying. That's what's going on.
Michael, do you mean to tell me that big tech would do something like that and shadow ban and push down the algorithm? I don't. Big tech. Come on, Michael.
You know what's so funny? Like, I talk about this is when you overreact to certain things, right? So I think the right overreacts in certain cases. One of the biggest mistakes that the left made, probably in the last decade, was all these different social media platforms deplatforming Andrew Tate in the same hour.
Yeah. Oh, dude.
That so for instance,
I was there interviewing the guy when it happened.
Before consider this. Before it was insane. A guy saying there's a conspiracy against me, and everybody's like, yeah, sure, a conspiracy against you. Sound like a nutbag. Yep. And then he loses all of his accounts from publicly traded companies that have no equity in one another. He loses all of his accounts in the same hour. Now it's not a conspiracy anymore. Now you understand what you're against. So now one more time, we have a type of content that big tech doesn't want to see. They've been open about not wanting to see it. That's why they put him on a DHS watch list. They talk about divert hate and all this other stuff. So we know what their agenda is. That's fine. Everyone gets to have an agenda. There's nothing illegal about that. But now we know what your agenda is. We also know you control the algorithm, which controls traffic. And then you start to ratio that traffic and then have your talking heads.
I'm just going to skip ahead here.
Really and now they're emotionally unregulated because they no longer can put up a front.
Oh yeah, this guy's funny. This guy, I don't think this guy's Red Pill, but he's just funny to listen to. He's talking about he says he's the next step in Red Pill, but let's hear what he has to say.
Really?
Now yes, and that's where a lot of guys that have been in Red Pill for a long time find me. They've hit a point, they've hit a ceiling in which they can't go any deeper within themselves because they've already mastered the outside game. They've mastered the conversations with women, they've mastered how to have a lot of money, they've mastered how to have a lot of success, but they want to go deeper. And I think that's what the Red Pill is actually missing, is a level of depth and self-understanding and self-discovery that it needs to take on to be able to continue to evolve. And I think it's a great thing. I mean, it's amazing. It's an amazing thing, but can only take men so far. And I think it has to evolve in a way where men have to learn how to establish deeper levels of intimacy with themselves by knowing themselves more. And for them to be able to have relationships with women that are long-lasting, they have to be able to have a greater understanding of themselves emotionally to be able to not fuck up their situation with a girl they really like.
Okay.
Because that's what a lot of the men that are in the Red Pill come to me when they get into a situation with a girl they really like, and now they're emotionally unregulated because they no longer can put up a front to try to prevent themselves from really allowing their true self or their unconscious self from being projected onto that woman.
So here's my question. You're saying the next level above the Red Pill.
This is why
an actual
whenever I talk to my guy friends, and they're trying to talk to a girl, I tell them, don't put up a front. Be honest about who you are to this woman. Because if you don't, it's going to come out eventually. And when she finds out the thing that she doesn't like about you, she'll just leave you anyways. So it's better to just be honest about who you are from the beginning, so that if she doesn't like you for who you actually are, because who you actually are is going to come out. If she doesn't like you for who you actually are, well, then she could leave you, or you guys could break up at that moment, and you don't have to drag on a relationship and make yourself feel worse later. And that's how I am,
That makes sense, because if you do put on a masculine front that's not yourself, a fake character of a masculine person, you can't keep that for long periods of time. It would be incredibly exhausting to play like this over masculine character. So I totally see what you're saying there. You should not lie, because it's definitely going to hurt yourself, and it's eventually going to get out. So there's no point in wasting
if you're
your time.
with a girl if you're going to be with a woman long term, right, there's going to be no point in lying and keeping up a lie, right? Because eventually she's going to find out, man. If you're going to live with her, you're going to marry her, you're going to have kids with her, at some point she's going to find out who you actually are. You know what I mean? Yeah. You can't hide who you actually are forever.
That makes sense.
So if she doesn't like you for who you actually are, she's dating you for who she thinks you are. And she likes that. And then when you actually are when you show who you actually are and she doesn't like that, well, then you basically just wasted your time. You could have been spending that time with someone who actually liked you. So yeah, don't waste your time.
Don't waste your time.
Like, this is your class that you teach them? What is that next level?
This is just something I've made up. Now, I know Rollo, obviously he said what it is. It's not necessarily what society says, but it's on the next level to what society says that it kind of is. Does that make sense?
Do you remember when Amy said a little bit ago about the prescription? There's a description and then there's a prescription. And so what he and I do mostly is description. We have a saying in the military where we talk about regulation and procedure. Regulation is regulation. I am stating a thing, you will do this thing or you will go to jail. Procedure is how you choose to, when you want to put the gear down or when you want to execute. When it's procedure, you state it's procedure, and when it's a regulation, you state it's a regulation. When we're stating the concept that 70 to 80% of divorces are initiated by women, that's a description. Right. The idea that I don't want to date a woman who has multiple kids or has a body count over 90, that's a prescription, but it doesn't necessarily, but when we differentiate the two, we state that it's a differentiation. If I have a guy come to me and he's like, hey man, I married a woman, she has 3 kids, it turned out to be the greatest decision of my life, I would be nothing but happy for the guy because we're not judging them. It's discernment without judgment. That's the difference. So what he's talking about before, he's not wrong. It's just that the Red Pill's place is to, it's like when you read Principia by Isaac Newton, he doesn't sit there and tell you how to use gravity. Right. He just tells you what gravity is.
It's the Chilton manual is what it is. It's like how to put the car back together, all the pieces to the car. That's really how I described it.
No, I think what he's saying, hold on one sec. I think what he is saying is 100% correct. In the end of the day, you have like a lot of these Red Pill guys, right? They look at the statistics about like single motherhood and things like that, and then they'd be like, "Never date a single mom, never." Yeah, and then what's kind of funny? There was like a Red Pill guy. I don't know who he is. I think his name was like Cooley or something like that. He basically was talking so much about how he never date single moms. Single mothers are trash. They're damaged goods. And then it came out that he was married to a single mother with 2 kids. And then when confronted about it, you know, you would expect, you know what? Listen, I maybe I got a little carried away. Obviously, I don't actually really mean all women. Blah blah blah. You know, he went out and said, actually, no, I was 100% right. But the only thing is, I'm the exception to the rule because of yada, 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 and all of these dumb excuses. And it's just like, listen, bro, if you're going to be pushing a ideology, you have to live that ideology, bro. If not, people are going to look at your ideology as being fake. Like, you know what I mean? Like if I'm a Christian person and I'm preaching about how being gay is wrong and this and this and this and that, right? And then on the weekends, I'm having gay sex with like, in gay sexual orgies with multiple men at a time, people are going to look at me and be like, oh man, I guess this ideology ain't really that serious. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's basically what's going on with the Red Pill movement, because you have like a lot of guys who make prescriptive statements like never fuck with single mothers, never, date a woman with an OnlyFans, never date a woman with this arbitrary number of bodies, because of this reason. And then you see these exact guys fucking with these exact women. Like if you look at Fresh and Fit, if you look at the women that these guys are dating, right, and fucking with, are these guys dating women that they argue to be with? Are these guys dating women that are from church and are not promiscuous and are covering up and know how to cook and clean and have children and this and this and that? Hell no, bro. Whenever you see these guys, these Red Pill guys, you see them with the most hoiest hoes out there. You know what I mean? And you see them at these parties with all of these girls that I don't mean to speak disrespectfully to these women. You know what I mean? I don't mean this as a bad thing. I mean, if you want to be a hoe, you can be a hoe. You want to sleep around, I don't think that's a bad thing. But these guys, they always say that it is a bad thing. They say if you fuck with these girls, well, then you're just a simp. But then they do the exact thing that they tell their audience not to do. So it just makes their fucking ideology look freaking terrible whenever they do shit like that.
Yeah. And this is the reason why I find Michael and Rollo so compelling as leaders in the manosphere space or the red pill space, is because of that exact distinction that they made. They said that there's a difference between descriptive and prescriptive red pill. And that's the really big distinction that people need to understand looking outside in at the red pill. There's those two distinctions. The true red pill is not prescriptive, it's descriptive. It's a data pack, as Rollo always says. He reports the data, and then we do what we will with that information. Now, a lot of that information is very obvious. For example, marriage. It's very obvious that marriage has high risks. And so a natural prescriptive that would develop from that descriptive is that it's going to be very risky to marry someone. So marriage is something you have to take with a grain of salt. You have to be very careful with it and, decide if you want to take that risk or not. But that's the important distinction. You have to realize red pill is the red pill from the Matrix. It's waking up to the reality. It's understanding the nature of the world as it is, not as you used to perceive it. That's what the red pill is. It's knowledge. It's not some internet gurus walking around saying, some dudes do say don't marry single moms or don't wife up single moms. Now, you can do whatever you want with that information, but the descriptive information is what, is information surrounding single moms. And then the prescriptive statement is do not date single moms. So people need to make that key distinction. And I always think that more information decentralized to more people is always a good thing. So more knowledge we have, better. And that's why, red pill knowledge is good to have. It can get a little bit, rough with the prescriptives, and it can make the red pill in its totality look bad because there's lots of bad actors and people who are greedy and things like that. But overall, if we're looking at the red pill as its original form, which is knowledge, then that is a good thing.
Yeah, I think the black pill is true. More true, personally. The black pill is true, like the NAP. Anyways, but the reason why I think it's just more true is because fundamentally all we're doing is just like looking at the world, and we're just basically saying what it is. You know what I mean? The internet has basically got us to a situation where women are starting to realize their true value, because women have tremendous value, like you wouldn't believe. Women are the most valuable things in the world, because women are the ones who are the choosers. They are the one who basically make the decision as to who gets to further their generation. So because of this, women and because of the internet, women are starting to realize that value. And they're having all of these options in front of them, placed right in front of them. And it's making women much more picky. It's making the standards that men have to adhere to much, much higher. Because in the end of the day, now that women have all of these options, that normal guy down the street is no longer as appealing if she has 200 options outside of that. And once you have a situation like that, you basically put men in a situation where they're no longer as valuable as they need to be, and women are no longer willing to settle for men that aren't that good looking, and that's going to create a situation where there's going to be more and more single males, while there's going to be less and less single females, and that's already basically going on right now. You have tons of women. Like, most women are in relationships, and a large portion of men are not in relationships. And there are a lot of more men nowadays who are becoming virgins because they're just women who are refusing to have sex with your average guy anymore. It's just because and I don't see this getting any better. I think it's going to get harder and harder. I don't know. I don't see this personally. I don't see this getting any better, bro.
Bro, you're a capitalist, dude. You're a capitalist. Listen, the natural state of the world should have always been capitalism, right? like the whole idea of like women not voting and stuff is all created by the state system. Like that whole thing with the state system of women stay at home and like while the men go to war, that's been in our culture for hundreds and hundreds, practically since the beginning of time, since we've had governments. That's been the state of reality. But in a true capitalist system, I think right now we're in like a recession because of the equality that women have achieved with men under the guise of the state. And so we're kind of in a recession with men because men have been conforming with the state, and like they're like, okay, so if you're a good little boy for the state, then maybe after you go to war and all this stuff, we'll give you a wife. And it's like that's how things have been. But when we're opening it up to the free market, what I think is going to happen is that culturally we're going to change. And the more we go towards a free market, yes, women are going to get choosier, but at the same time, it's always supply and demand, always. Men are going to have to step up their game, and they will have to compete harder. And I think this will be a overall good for society because men will become better men. They will become healthier. They'll become more attractive. They'll become more economically smart. And they'll do all of this to compete with the top men. And say what you will, even if, let's just say hypothetically, women won't pick anyone over a 4, right? Like even all the men, even if they aren't being picked over a 4, are still going to compete with each other because they want to be with women. And that's going to be a net positive for the totality of society. So yeah, maybe, it could be bad, but I think it's going to tend towards something good.
Well, but what about those men that can't really improve? Like if the standard for women is their looks generally, and there's certain things that men can't like change about themselves, right? In terms of their looks, well, then we're basically those men who are incapable of making their looks better, unless we may come up with some sort of technology that gene editing that makes our future kin, we could like gene edit our future kin to make them look better. Yeah. But for those men who don't really look that good, they're basically fucked. You know what I mean? And then those guys who are those very few guys that do look good, they're going to get all the women and breed. And then, what you're going to see is...
That's what robots are for,
What I'm saying, what I'm trying to say is that...
Yeah, go ahead.
What you're saying is not necessarily wrong in the sense that, yeah, there's going to be women... It's going to push men to up their standards, right?
Yeah.
But what about those men that can't up their standards? You can't make yourself look better. You know what I'm saying? I mean, there are some people that can minutely make themselves look better, but you can't just make yourself look better. You can't just make yourself more appealing. And that's really what women want when they're looking at men. They, that's the number one thing is they look at your looks. That's why you see like women dating broke ass dudes, and then you wonder, why is this girl with a broke ass dude? Well, it's just like, oh well, she likes the way that he looks. Some women like, and there are certain things about that men can't change. You know what I mean? And what I see going on is what's going to happen is there's going to be a very few men that are going to be getting all the women. Those men are going to breed. They're going to have children, and then the men there's going to be a large swath of men who are not going to have children, and we're going to have a shit ton of marriedless, childrenless men, and then the population is going to go way down. And that's when population collapse happens. Man, it's like a whole lot of bad shit.
Yeah. We'll see. I guess time will tell, won't it?
I mean, listen, I'll say this. I hope I'm wrong. I hope you're right. I hope what I'm saying right now ages like milk. I really hope so.
Like single moms.
Yes.
Oh God. All right.